Okay, so the timeline is ready and the video is starting to look good, but we don't want good. We want this shit to be perfect. So there are still a few more final touches to be done to the timeline, but instead of dedicating an entire episode to that, I think it's more relaxing to just do it along the way. So today our main focus is going to be all about transition and both practical and visual effects. So let's get started. So back in Premiere Pro, the first thing we're going to add today is our black bars, and we can find those in the project bin because we didn't add those to any bin. So we're just going to click and drag those out. We can drag it out to video 3, just so like with the audio tracks, we can keep one free in case we want to add something there later. So pull out our timeline and drag out this clip along the whole thing. And then as you can see, this have some markers on there, and that's old. It's saved somehow in the file. I don't know why, so we can just cut that out if it bothers you. It bothers my OCD. Okay, so now we can see that we have added bars to our video, and this is to change our aspect ratio. And technically this is not how it's done, because technically the aspect ratio is still 16:9. So in the final episode, when we're exporting this, we're going to export it without the black bars, but we're going to keep them on for now. So the first effect that we're going to add today is called Warp Stabilizer. And you can find that up in the Effects tab here. Just click there and search for Warp Stabilizer on the distort. Don't drag it yet. And we're going to add this to the stairs clip, but not on this one. I know that doesn't make sense, but just trust me for now. We're gonna pick the other stairs clip here. So instead of duplicating and dragging, we're just gonna hit Control or Command C and scroll down a bit on our timeline to the end and hit V to paste. And then we can go back and just see where the last frame in that stairs clip is, and that is after the freeze frame. So here is the freeze frame, and then if we look at the shot after, we can zoom in a little bit and just see, we can hide the black bars for now by clicking the eye symbol here. So we can see that the last frame is just when my face is about to go out of screen. So we can go back to our clip here and we can drag this out until we're at the same frame. Yeah, I would say there. It was here, but we need one more frame. So there, and trim that. And then we're gonna add our warp stabilizer to this shot. But first we can look at it just so you can see the difference. You can see how the camera is sort of shaking like this. We don't want that. So we're going to add the warp stabilizer, and then we're going to open up our effect controls on the other side here, and we can see that it's processing, stabilizing, and now according to Premiere Pro it's done and it's stabilized. So we can render this by hitting in and out and R. Okay, that's actually looking pretty good. Sometimes, depending on your shot, when you add warp stabilizer, you can get this sort of jello effect. We can see if we can see that in another example later. But when you're first just dragging in warp stabilizer like this, it doesn't make a detailed analysis. It just makes a fast one. So we can go down to our warp stabilizer effect, go to advanced and uncheck this fast analysis and hit detail analysis instead. And it's going to restart the process. It's going to take a bit longer time just because it does a more detailed analysis. Okay, let's render and look at it again. Yeah. I'm happy with that. So let's just copy that one again, Control or Command C, and scroll down to our place. So that is here, and we can just paste that Control or Command V. And now, of course, it's not long enough because we added the freeze frame there. So just remove the old clip and the freeze frame, and then we're gonna find the exact same spot again, which is right about here. Yeah. Okay, so then we can nest this, and basically what nesting does is it creates a new sequence or a new timeline of that shot. So I have a shortcut for this, which is on N, and you can add that if you want, or you can just right click and choose nest. So before we click OK, you can see here that the warp stabilizer is on. And when we nest this, we can name it to stairs warped. And hit enter. And now if we go into our effect controls, we can see that the warp stabilizer is gone because this is a new clip. And if we would want to make changes to this later, we can just double click it. And then we get into the nested sequence. Here we have all our sequences. And before we only had the stairs one, or our video here. And now we have this nested shot, which we call stairs warped. And all the effects and all the changes you do to this clip or inside this sequence will not affect the nested clip in here. It will change the appearance, but this clip will always remain the same. So again, now it's nested and we're gonna make our new freeze frame. And you can see, since this is warped now, I don't know if it looks like that for you. Premiere makes this sometimes for me. When I move this, since it's not rendered, it sort of jumps out of frame. So I'm just going to set an in point and render this. Okay, so yeah, right about here, I'm gonna right click and choose add frame hold. And I'm gonna drag that out to where the music starts again. And then just like we did before, we're gonna Alt and drag. Pull this out, make a cut there, delete this part and drag this over to there and trim the end there. So let's look at that.
But how? There.
So there's a little bit of a warping effect actually. So let's try to put this to 20% instead. Let it stabilize, render, and watch again.
But how? There, you're all caught up now.
Yeah, that's better. So then we're gonna need that in the beginning as well, since it's the same shot. So we're just gonna copy this by Alt and dragging it over there. And since our pause is here, we're gonna trim that down a little bit and move it down there. Let it go, drag it out, go to the pause, add frame hold, drag that out, and we're done. Then we can just pull that down on top of the old ones. Actually, another thing that we're gonna do before I forget is to unlink all the audio files that we don't need. So if you look at the tracks here, we can see that there's actually just one audio track that is active. So we can select all the audio and unlink. Right click and click unlink. Select the empty audio files and just remove them like this. And then we can just drag them up to stay a bit organized. And then we have to link them back one by one. Okay.
This is the incredible story of when I got my mail. Let's back up a bit. What?
Okay, and we can stabilize this too, but we are gonna make a transition here. So we are gonna need 6 more frames of this shot. So we can just go to the beginning and back up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frames, pull that out, and then we're gonna add the warp stabilizer to this shot too, before we make the transition. Okay, in point, out point, and render.
A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it.
It's a little jello-y. You can see the desk here. So instead, we're gonna click down the advanced, uncheck fast, and check in detailed analysis.
A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it. I had been...
Okay, so it's a lot better. I think you can see, if you look at the plant in the background here, there is a little bit of a shake when I'm getting up. But I don't think the eyes are gonna be there, so I think it's okay. So let's nest this by hitting N, or right click and choose nest, and let's call it Office Warped. So then we're going to create our first transition, and this is going to be a whip transition, just like you can do in camera, but we're going to do it digitally instead. So set a keyframe in the end, or 6 frames into the Office Warped shot, and then move to the beginning and hit 2880, and that's going to move the clip. If we take this down, we can zoom out a bit to 25%, and we can click the motion here, and we can see that it's just outside of frame there, which is perfect. And then we're going to do the same thing with the other clip, but in reverse. So select the stairs warped. And now, since if you look up here, technically we're outside of the shot. I don't really know what it is, but don't worry about it. Just nest it again. Call it stairs warped x2 maybe. And now if we click it again, we can see that it's going all the way out. So hit position, make a keyframe there, and then move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you move 6 frames, you're gonna end up outside. So it's gonna select another shot. So just stay at 5 for now. And then we're gonna hit -960. And that's gonna move this shot just outside of frame here. And then we can move the keyframe to the end like that. And now hopefully these two are stitched together. So we can just render this and see if they are. Perfect. Okay, but this looks very jagged and rough and weird.
A while ago.
So we're gonna add blur to this, or motion blur. So to do that, you know what, to stay organized, we can just create a bin called nested sequences and just drag these in here. So to add this motion blur effect, we're gonna right click inside our project bin, choose new item and adjustment layer, hit OK, and then we're gonna drag that on top and just trim down what we need. So it's gonna cover those 6 frames. Then go up to the effects panel and search for directional blur. Drag that onto our adjustment layer. And what this does is it basically creates fake blur, but we want it to the side. So we're gonna hit 90 in the direction. And we're gonna make sure, I'm just gonna render so we can see.
Back up a bit.
So here it actually starts before the transition starts. So I'm gonna skip 1 frame and cut the adjustment layer short. So it starts when the movement starts.
Back up a bit. A while ago I was...
Pretty good. And then we can move the sound effect so it's just beneath the transition there. So about 2 frames.
Back up a bit. A while ago I was sitting...
Great. We can zoom in again or fit the frame.
Sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it. I had been waiting for the...
Okay. So now it's time for our second transition, and this is a masking transition. I don't know if it really has a name, but again, to avoid upsetting Premiere, we're just gonna nest this again. So let's call it Office Warped X2 and drag it into our nested sequence. And we're gonna create a mask, and first, let's render it again.
Back up a bit.
So let's first move to a frame where I'm about in the middle of the frame, and we can zoom out again to 25 so we can see. So to add a mask, we need to click our clip and go to the opacity and choose the pen tool. So the pen tool lets us draw a custom mask by ourselves, and then we have the circle and the square, and those create a mask with a circle or a square. But since this shape doesn't work for those, we're gonna draw our own. So just set the first point outside of frame, then somewhere in the, maybe in the middle of my arm here, set a new one and hold and drag to make it a bit smoother. Then click one time in the middle there, and then hold and drag outside of frame and curve the line like this. And then just keep moving around like this. And now we're masking out the wrong part, so we're gonna check the inverted box like that. And then we can see that the mask edge is way too rough. So we're gonna add some mask feather. I think, let's try 100. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So mask path, this is to keyframe the mask so we can move it over time. So let's move 2 frames back and move the mask. I think there is pretty good. Maybe adjust it a little bit. Like that maybe. And move back 1 more frame. So now I'm covering the whole frame, so we don't need the mask. We can just leave it outside. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here, let's mask out my elbow. And you can add a new point to your mask by just, as soon as the pen symbol with the plus sign comes, just click and drag to make a new point there. So drag it outside, all the points. And then, now we can see that behind here we can see a little bit of the room, which we don't want. So I'm gonna move the mask a bit closer, like that. And then skip 2 more frames and move the mask so it covers the whole frame, like that. And then we can render and just see there. We can see the plant there. So I'm just gonna adjust the point there and then go outside. Yep. So render.
Back up.
And now we of course don't want black screen behind the mask. So right before the mask start, we're gonna drag the walking truck shot over, but we can't because it's linked to this audio. So unlink it, right click and choose unlink, and then just drag this out. Render.
Back up a bit. A while ago I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it. I had been...
Perfect. So yeah, it's a very smooth transition and can be very seamless or very stylistic depending on the two shots you stitch together. But we are gonna add a sound effect here because we want a tiny whoosh. So let's go to the audio bin, double click our 10 free cinematic whooshes, and let's find a fitting one. I think that one. So in point, out point, and drag that just underneath.
Get it. I had been waiting.
Yeah, pretty good.
Now to get it. I had been waiting for this package forever, so.
Then I think this shot is pretty good. If we would stabilize this, it would just look super messed up because all the branches here in the tree or the bush would confuse the warp stabilizer a lot because it needs very contrasty points to find tracking points so it can do a better stabilize. But here it would just shake and wobble a lot, so we're gonna skip that. The neighbor shot,
it was my super annoying neighbor.
I don't think we need stabilizer for that either. Then for this one,
had to avoid him at any.
We can add warp. So just search for warp stabilizer, drag that on the clip, wait, then render and watch it.
It was my super annoying neighbor. I had to avoid him at any cost. But
okay, great. And this is already warped, so we're gonna skip that for now. Then the hitman shot is super smooth and in super slow motion, so we don't have to change that. Not that, not that, not that. Not that, because it's static. This one, for not being a camera woman, I think Erica did a great job with the gimbal work. It's like her third time holding a gimbal. But there is a little bit of a twist here, there, and we're gonna see if the warp stabilizer can remove that. So let's just add it, and we're gonna make a detailed analysis since it's so much detail or so much movement. So uncheck the fast analysis and check in the detailed, and wait. And in point, render, and watch.
I managed to escape the deadly conversation and to keep moving towards my goal.
There's a little warping in the end, so we're gonna try to change the smoothness to maybe, let's try 10% at first. Render.
I managed to escape the deadly conversation and to keep moving towards my target.
Yeah, that looks great. And the same, I think, for this one. So we can just copy the warp, Control or Command C, Control Command V, and analyze.
I managed to escape the deadly conversation and to keep moving towards my target. But then...
Oh, it looks very good on this side of the frame, but if you look up here...
But then...
That's not great.
Moving towards my target.
No, we can't have that. So just remove the warp stabilizer and we simply have to deal with the fact that it's a bit shaky.
Moving towards my target. But then, someone had thrown a banana peel on the ground.
Okay, we can try to stabilize this. And we can't because we have to nest it first. You can't use warp stabilizer and speed on the same clip. And since we added 80% to this yesterday to slow it down, the speed has been changed. So we're just gonna nest this, call it 12 banana. Okay, and drag in the warp again.
Someone had thrown a banana to keep and thrown a banana peel on the ground. It seemed someone had thrown a banana peel on the ground. It seemed impossible to avoid.
Yeah, great. And the next one, warping is not going to work either because it doesn't do well with focus racking. The push in, however, is a bit shaky, so let's try to add warp stabilizer. And again, we can't use it with speed, so nest it. 14 push in parkour.
Thank God for my parkour training.
Perfect. No stabilizing for this. Okay. Not for this, and not for this. Okay, so now we've added warp stabilizer to the shots that we needed to stabilize. The next thing we're gonna do is toggle our black bars back again, and we're gonna do some reframing. And this is when we zoom in and we change the position and we just make the framing look better. And since we have black bars, we can move the clip up and down without scaling it up, which is nice. So on the first shot here, let's just render so we can see.
This is the incredible story of when
It's good until we get to here, but still we're gonna click on the stairs warped, add a keyframe in the beginning, and to add a keyframe you just click this little stopwatch on the position. Then we move forward a bit to, yeah, I think let's move to the end of the shot first and just, yeah, maybe, yeah, 650 is good. Drag it to the end, render and look.
This is the incredible story of when I got my mail.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So the position on this one, of course, needs to be 650 as well, but we don't want to mess with our effect, so we're gonna nest this again. Let's call it stairs freeze. And change the position to 650. You don't have to add any keyframe now because it's not going to be animated. Render.
This is the incredible story of when I got my mail. Let's back up a bit. A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it. I had been waiting for the...
Okay, that's good. When we hear the notification from the phone, I think it's nice if we can actually see a phone. So we're gonna animate this too. So let's nest it first and call it, I don't know, whatever you want. Office ×3, maybe. Stay organized. So set a keyframe position in the beginning of the shot and then move to about where we can hear the notification.
This ago, I was sitting at home awaiting.
There. And move this down so we can see the phone. There. And then I think just drag it out a little bit. And to make this smoother and not so robotic, we can hit the little arrow key here next to the stopwatch. And we can actually, just like we did with the speed ramping, click the little dot here, drag it down and into the middle. And that will create a gradual move. And we can see how that looks.
A while ago, I was sitting at home.
No, that's too much. So we can move the keyframe out a bit.
This is the... Back up a bit. A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so...
It's better, but I think we don't need that much. So we can drag that up a bit again. Render.
Back up a bit. A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it. I had been waiting for the...
Yeah. And here we have some framing issues as well.
I had been...
So set a stopwatch or a keyframe in the beginning. Move this up a little bit.
I had been waiting for this packet for...
A little more.
forever, so I was super excited.
And set a keyframe here right before I crouch, or right before I start moving down the stairs. And then a few frames after the camera starts rotating, we can pull this down until we can see just below the tires of the car. And let's just highlight all the keyframes by either selecting them like this, or you can hold Shift and click on all of them. And right click and choose Bezier.
Nasir, hebreiska nasir, från verbet nasar, är en person inom judendomen som har avlagt nazilivet och därför tillfälligt eller permanent lever efter.
Thanks. Let's render.
I had been waiting for this packet forever, so I was super excited. But then, it was my...
Let's take the last keyframe, drag that more to the end of the shot, and actually pull it up again so we can see a little bit above my head. And instead of using that one, we're gonna take this one, drag that out a little bit extra, and drag that down instead. Yeah, so this one lets us see just below the car. So now you should have 4 keyframes here. We can see how that looks.
I had been waiting for this packet forever, so I was super excited. But
it starts to move down a little bit too early. So keyframe number 2, we can drag closer. Yeah, and we can see how that looks, so it doesn't look too animated.
I had been waiting for this packet forever, so I was super excited. But then, it was my super...
Yeah, perfect. Okay, the neighbor shot, I think we can pull that up a little bit.
Super annoying.
To 579.
My neighbor, I had to avoid him at any...
And this, maybe... Yeah, 553.
I had been waiting for this packet forever, so I was super excited. But then, it was my super annoying neighbor. I had to avoid him at any cost. But how?
Nice. And here, we will of course have the same framing issues as the first clip because it's the same one. So instead of redoing all the animating, we're just going to copy this motion effect by clicking on the motion, Command or Control C, select our next clip and hit Control V or Command V and drag it to the end so it's in the same spot. So it ended at 650, right? Yeah. So the freeze frame should also be at 650. And so should the next one. Okay, let's render.
At any cost. But how? There, you're all caught up now.
I think maybe on this one it starts a bit too high. So we can drag that down to about 512.
At any cost. But how?
And we can see that we can see where the animation starts.
But how?
And we don't want that, so just drag it to the start.
At any cost. But how? There, you're all caught up now.
Okay, great. And again, some framing issues here. Just drag that down to 450. Drag this up to 600. This one down to 443. this one to 630. Yeah, let's pull that back to 426. And the next one to 463.
Okay.
And of course, the freeze frame as well, 463.
Okay, fine, that's not what happened.
Or actually give it a little bit more space, 480. Ah, we have to animate this. Click the stopwatch and have 463 on the first keyframe, and then 480 and drag that to the end.
Okay, fine, that's not what happened.
Great. And this is static and the framing is good, so we don't have to change that. The crawl shot, I think
I managed to escape the deadly conversation and you keep moving towards me.
yeah, so this isn't super obvious or super important, but here I'm pretty low and then I'm getting up here. So I'm gonna animate the position, click a keyframe in the center and then just drag that out and lift this up a little bit. So maybe like that at 500 here, and then drag this to the end. And I think maybe it will look a bit robotic.
I managed to escape the deadly conversation and you keep moving towards.
Yeah, a little bit. So let's just pull this down and drag the dot to the bottom and a bit out, so it's more gradual.
I managed to escape the deadly conversation and you keep moving towards my target.
Nice. Here we have some issues as well. In the end, the framing is pretty good. So we're gonna set a keyframe here and then move back to, yeah, about here. Yeah, let's pull that up to the top, which is the devil's number. And take that out and take that out.
I managed to escape the deadly conversation and you keep moving towards my target. But then, someone had thrown a banana peel.
Nice. And the banana shot can be pulled down a bit in the end. So, but the beginning is good. So set a keyframe in the beginning and then set a keyframe in the end at around 435 or something. Render.
It seemed impossible to avoid.
And this, I think we're gonna scale this up a bit to 70 because it's a 4K clip on a 1080p timeline, so we can afford that. Maybe at, let's try 600. Yeah. Render.
It seemed impossible to avoid. Thank God for my hardcore training.
Yeah, and the framing is good in the push in here. And here it's good in the beginning, but it's bad in the end. So because we have the time remapping, we're not gonna mess with that. So we're just gonna nest it first, hit the position, stopwatch, move the first frame to the beginning, and then here to about here, and see how that looks. A bit too obvious, right? Yeah. So maybe it's okay if I'm a little bit out of frame here. It kind of looks weird when it's moving in the same speed as I am. So I think instead we're gonna start this one a bit higher up at around 550. Yeah, can pull this down a little bit.
Oh.
And here we could animate this, try. Set a stopwatch in the beginning because it's good there. And then in the end, just pull it down a little bit to 485. Yeah, so the keyframe should also be 485.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine, that's not what happened either.
And this one is just bad, but the black bars are not going to help us. So let's take the next shot. The framing is pretty good in the end, but it's a bit too high here. So we're just going to pull that up to 606. Why is there a gap here?
I had successfully avoided certain death again and managed to reach my mailbox.
Okay, here we can see that we have a pretty obvious framing issue, and since we have the time remapping or the speed ramp, we're gonna nest this. But the thing is that the framing is really bad here, and then it's okay here. So I think we're gonna set a keyframe around here. Move this up a little bit, okay, quite a lot, to 630. And then here I'm crouching down, so the animation is gonna come with that to about 478. Drag that to the end, and then click down the arrow and drag this out to make a curve. And usually a distinct curve like this would be pretty obvious, but because of the speed ramping, I don't think it's going to be that noticeable. But here in the beginning, we can, yeah, let's 660. Render.
But then, turns out it wasn't there. It was a goddamn ball.
Okay, great. We're just gonna pull this out too.
But then, turns out it wasn't there. It was a goddamn ball.
Okay, great. So now we have all our video effects, we have our transitions, and we have done reframing to everything, so everything looks good. We're just gonna fix a few things with the audio coming in and out. Remember that we removed the click from the gun. For some reason we didn't do that here. And with all audio, it's always nice to make it come in and out gradually, and we can do that using keyframes again. But instead of making this move out gradually, I would want it to pause at the same time as this pause. But if we drag this out, we get the gun click again. So we're just gonna cut a random frame before that, and we're gonna duplicate it and drag it over our gun click. Like that. And just make sure that it ends by the pause. Then we can do the same thing with the voiceover, but instead of constantly having to set keyframes, blah, 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 we can just do a right click in the end and choose apply default transition, and that will also lower the volume.
When I got my mail.
Gradually. And then we can start the next one with the same thing. Just make sure that it's not over the voice.
I got my mail. Let's back up a bit.
So yeah, just go ahead and do that to all voice clips. Okay, so now you will never forget how to do that again. Let's do the same thing to the music, where it sort of gradually comes in. So here at before the crawl shot, and you can also do it, no, sorry, that's a pause. And there it ends abruptly with the pause, and here it comes in again gradually. And you can do it here on the crawl 2 shot also, like that. Oops. Maybe let's drag that out a bit. Yeah, right before I start talking again, or right before I say, yep. Okay, good. And then here it's okay because we have the pause, and then we're good. Okay, so that's looking good. Now it's time to add the effects to our audio. So the first thing we need to do is change the voiceover and make sure that everything sounds balanced and that it's compressed and that it's not too loud in some places and too low in some places. And instead of adding an effect to every single clip, we're gonna go up to Audio Clip Mixer here. Sorry, Audio Track Mixer. And if it doesn't look like this for you, just hit the little arrow here in the corner and you can get everything out. So here we can add one effect that will be added to our entire track. So you can see the voiceover track is called A1, and here we can see A1. So every effect we add here will be added to our entire track here. Super good. The first thing we're gonna select is a compression, and you can choose the hard limiter. And what this does is it's boosting the lower levels and it's taking down the higher levels, so everything is more level throughout the entire voiceover. So maximum amplitude is how loud the hard limiter allows the voice to be. So I'm gonna set this to -3 decibels, and then I'm gonna choose an input boost of around 10. I think we can start and see how that sounds. So let's just ignore the rest for now, so we can solo the voiceover and listen to it.
This is the incredible story of when I got my mail. Let's back up a bit. A while ago I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it.
And if we look at our audio levels here, we can see that it's not only louder, but everything is jumping up here between like -9, -3.
Out to get it. I had been waiting for this package forever,
So that's good. Then we're gonna add a Parametric Equalizer, and you can find that on Filter and EQ. And to be honest, I'm not the best mixer in the world, and maybe you should do this with headphones, but we're just gonna select the preset Vocal Enhancer, and we're gonna pull down the highest peak here. Just drag it down and sort of pinch it here. And this lets us control the different frequencies in our voice. So on the right side here we have our high frequencies, and on the left side we have our low frequencies, our bass. So the Vocal Enhancer preset, it's sort of, well, from the beginning it boosts that extra high notes, but I don't want that because the S's and those high-pitched noise can really like cut your ears, and I hate that. So I'm gonna take that down. I'm gonna boost the 4 a little bit. And I think I'm gonna keep the bass where it is, or the lows. And we're just gonna go ahead and listen to that again.
This is the incredible story of when I got my mail.
And if we take that on and off.
Let's back up a bit. A while ago I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it. I had been waiting for this package forever, so I was super...
It's not a huge difference, but we get a little bit extra like punch in the voice. And then the last thing we're gonna add is also amplitude and compression, and we're gonna choose Multiband Compressor. Right click and choose Edit. And then here on the preset, we're gonna choose Broadcast. And before you hit play, just take down the gain here a little bit, because this actually adds a lot of gain.
This is the incredible story of when I got my mail. Let's back up a bit. A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package.
So now it's starting to sound more like a radio voice, like an actual voiceover. If we listen first with all these three effects.
A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it.
And then we can just remove these for now.
A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then the package came, so I went out to get it.
So weak, right? So just go back 3 times.
A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package.
Cool. So now we're gonna unsolo this and get back to our music.
This is the incredible story of...
And now we can hear that the voice is a lot louder than the music. And in the beginning of the voice editing, we gain down the music -10. So we can take all the music tracks and gain those by 5. And let's see.
This is the incredible story of when I got my mail. Let's back up a bit. A while ago, I was sitting at home awaiting a package. Then
maybe this more quiet part here, we can gain that by 2.
The package came, so I went out to get it. I had been waiting for this package forever, so I was super excited. But then, it was my Someone had thrown a banana peel on the ground.
Okay, here we have to make a keyframe in our music track. If we make these a bit thicker, we can see that the volume actually gets louder here in the music, while our voiceover stays the same volume. So we're gonna set a keyframe right about here at 48 seconds. So set a keyframe at level.
But then, someone had thrown a banana.
And yeah, right about where I say banana, or a few, like, yeah, about 2 seconds after the brass, we're gonna take -3.
But then, someone had thrown a banana peel on the ground. It seemed impossible to avoid. Thank God for my parkour training.
And there, in the pause, we're gonna set a keyframe again. And there, right before the drop, we're gonna go up to -1.
Certain death again and managed to breathe.
And here, I think it's a bit too loud, maybe.
I had successfully avoided certain death
Yeah, let's gain this down too.
Again and managed to reach my mailbox.
So here we're gonna do the same thing, but since we have this transition here, we have to make a keyframe on both clips. So and hit -3, right?
But then, turns out it wasn't mail. It was a goddamn bomb.
And here again with the pause, from 3 to -1. So like that. Great. And the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make this a bit longer, but since this is nested, we have to go in to the nested sequence and make it longer here first. So let's make it 1 second longer. Just drag it back, go back to our main sequence. And now you can't drag this out because it's already happened inside the sequence. So instead we're gonna have to make it a second longer here. There, and we're gonna pull this back 1 second. And move the keyframes to the end.
Mailbox. But then, turns out it wasn't mail. It was a goddamn bomb.
Wow, things are starting to happen. So I think we're gonna end this episode right here, and in the next one we're going to learn all about color correcting and color grading and making our footage look good. So I'll see you then.